Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is once again directed by James Gunn, and it is a sequel to one of my favorite superhero films of all time, Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie once again follows our team as they travel across the galaxy taking these jobs. Except for one of these jobs actually leads Star-Lord to discover the truth behind his family lineage. I'm a very big fan of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. It's like in my easily top 5 favorite Marvel movies, and it's without a doubt one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. But that movie's odd in the fact that I really don't know squat about the Guardians of the Galaxy as far as the comics are concerned, so when I went and saw that original film, I really didn't have anything that had to cater for me as a fan of the comics, whereas where I go see a Batman movie or a Spider-Man or an X-Men movie, I expect certain things to be done right. But when I go into these Guardians of the Galaxy films, I just want good, fun movies. However, I didn't go into Volume 2 expecting it to be better than the first film. I understand that that was kind of lightning in a bottle. It's very hard to capture that feeling of freshness when you've seen it before. It's something that is very apparent in this film, and something that I really do admire about these movies is these films are so unique and just so weird. But Marvel is so good at taking such an oddball premise and really boiling it down to make it very accessible for audiences. But if you actually step back and try to tell yourself what's actually happening on screen, it's very hard to wrap your mind around how this movie in this franchise is so successful. And part of that reason is because the characters in this series are so good. I thought the standout of this film was Yondu, who is portrayed by Michael Rooker. I really did like his role in the first film, but what this movie does is it actually grows on his character and gives you a little bit of his backstory. He's actually involved in another great prison break sequence with Rocket, and it was one of the best parts of the movie. Of course, Rocket and Groot are back in this film, and oh boy, are they better than ever. Baby Groot is without a doubt one of the cutest things I've ever seen in my entire life. There's one scene in particular where Baby Groot is like wet and he's kind of pouting, and it just broke my heart. Oh my gosh. And Rocket is still mostly the same in this movie, except for at the beginning of this film, he's very rude to Peter Quill, and I didn't really feel like it was warranted. In fact, I felt like he was being a bit too much of a jerk. Like, I know his character is supposed to be very sarcastic and things like that, but some of the stuff that he was saying to Peter, I was like, dude, like, calm down, good lord. Nebula and Gamora are back in this film, and what Volume 2 does that I feel like Episode 1 didn't do as well is it really delves into their history and their backstory and why they have this big conflict between the two of them. And yeah, sure, when you're raised by Thanos, I'm sure you're gonna have a very difficult childhood. Something that I was worried about going into this film is I was worrying how they were going to fit Ego the Living Planet into this film, along with making it feel natural with his connection to Star-Lord. And I was completely blown away with how well Ego actually fits into this movie. I thought Kurt Russell did a really great job. It was fun to see him in this movie. I'm glad that he's actually a part of the cinematic universe now, which is so strange to me because Marvel has such a difficult time fitting in these villains, but when you take one of the most oddball and weird villains in the Marvel universe and make him fit well into this film, I feel like that was a very tough feat to tackle. I thought they did a great job. I thought Kurt Russell fit very well. I could really see how the parallels between him and Peter fit. Like, I really felt like he was Peter's dad. Chris Pratt's performance as Peter Quill was essentially the same thing that he did in the first movie, and that fits well. What I liked about this film is it does delve into more of his backstory, and that was a key thing that I learned in this movie is a lot of this film is focusing on what are the questions that weren't answered in the first film. What this movie does is try to fill in a lot of those questions. And it does that while still maintaining that fun, lighthearted vibe that the first film got. And by doing that, there are a ton of jokes in this movie. Most of them are delivered by Drax. And I feel like that was a reaction to the first film because Drax responded very well to audiences, so they really cracked down on giving him a lot more jokes this time around. Once again, the visuals in this film are immaculate. I thought the CGI had an excellent blend with the practical makeup that were on a lot of the actors. I won't be surprised at all if this gets nominated for an Oscar for makeup. And also what we've come to expect with the Guardians of the Galaxy films is having a great soundtrack. And they do pretty well. I don't think that I'm going to listen to this soundtrack as much as I did the first one, but it is definitely a nice companion to this film. I liked a lot of this movie. I do have some problems though, and a lot of my problems have to do with the first half of this movie. The first half of this film is really rough. It's extremely unfocused, and it just feels like it's going scene to scene to scene. It doesn't really feel like there's a through line connecting them. How I feel like they wrote this movie is they knew how they wanted this film to end. They knew how it wanted to connect to ego. So I feel like that they wrote this movie in reverse, and it just didn't feel natural. It just didn't feel like it flowed very well. I'm seeing this movie again tomorrow, and I'm curious to see if it flows better the second time, because that way you know where the destination is and you're not just sitting there wondering where the movie's going to actually start. And a lot of that confusion is attributed to these gold people that are in this film. They kind of disappear for a while, but when they come back, I legitimately had forgotten that they were in this movie. These characters don't really serve any sort of purpose at all. In fact, at the end of the movie, the only sort of resolution that they get is in an end credit scene. Yeah, I feel like the movie actually forgot about them just like we did, so they gave them a post-credit scene to really finish what they had started. Like I said, I felt like they were just there to push our Guardians of the Galaxy along into meeting ego. Overall, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is not as good as the first film, but that doesn't mean that it's not entertaining and fun and funny. The characters that we love for the first film are given a lot more to do in this movie. They're given a lot more backstory and growth that honestly, retroactively makes the first film a little bit better. So have you guys seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. And if you did, click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. Guys, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.